My name is Scotty Merson, and I want to say that I appreciate the opportunity that I have to even speak to you, that I understand that not every place has a conviction and integrity unit. I get it, and that's a shame because they should have them everywhere, as much problems as we've had. But anyway, I'm thankful to have this opportunity, and I'm not here to waste your time. I get it. I'm going to try to be as efficient as I can, but I want you to know what I say to you is the truth. That's all I've ever done. I've been in here 35 years now, and all I've ever said was the truth. I was arrested in May 1990 for a crime I did not commit. 5 months later, I went to trial and was convicted of that crime. I get arrested, and if you look, I want you to look at the way my case was handled, because the problems all started from the beginning. This detective gets called to a crime scene where this horrible crime takes place. This person molests a 9-year-old child, and he goes there, and in questioning her, one of the first things she tells him was that, at first, I thought the man in my room was my father. She goes on further to say that the man had clothes like my daddy. Now, I'm not sitting here trying to point no fingers. That's for you. All that's for you to decide, not me. I'm not going to get into all that, but it's facts. What I'm telling you are facts, and I want to keep it with facts. So you go to this home, you question everyone there. I've been in 35 years, and all my paperwork never has anywhere where Fred Cole or Jason Stockwell was ever even spoken to by this detective. Angela said she thought the man in her room was her father at first, and that he wore clothes like my daddy. He's between 6'3" and 6'5". Big man, 250, probably 260 pounds or so, with a freaking white beard and bald. At the time, I'm 5'8", 5'9", 135 pounds. You can look at my pictures. I look like Rick Springfield. I got a mullet. That's what I look like. Nothing like this person. Not clothes like him. I was wearing a pair of pastel plaid like golf shorts that night with a pair of Bass boat shoes with no socks on. I mean, I'm not wearing these clothes that were like my daddy. Don't even know what does she mean by that. I don't know. But I wasn't wearing those clothes. My trial gets down, and out of the hearing of the jurors, when those jurors are in and we're just sitting there, the judge is starting to complain that my trial's taken too long. He's complaining about it. So when my trial resumes, the state prosecutor and my lawyer, they go up to the judge, whatever you call that, but they go up to the judge at a hearing of the jurors. And the state prosecutor tells the judge, I'm not going to call this witness, or this witness. So what does my lawyer do? He does the same thing. He decides not to call my uncle, Richard Merson, my grandmother, Dorothy Merson, and my aunt. And it's like, here you got this trial. You got all the witnesses that testified so far are basically young people like me. They're my friends. But you have these 3 people to testify still. And my uncle, he's there to testify to the fact that I used his razor that night before I left home. When Allison and Sean and Christy Moore were on the way to get me, I took a shower and I shaved with my uncle's razor. He got mad at me and said, tomorrow Friday, when you get your paycheck, you need to buy your own razor and stuff. I said, okay. Well, this crime happens just a few hours later, and from everything I understand, she said the man had facial hair. She felt facial hair between her legs. I was 23 years old at the time. I'm pushing 60 now, and I can't grow a beard. I've never grown a beard. And then you don't call them? Why would you not call them? That was huge. Don't you think the jury should know that this girl said the man had facial hair of some kind? You know, don't you think that's important? I get arrested. I give you my story. I could tell it to you over and over again because it's imprinted in my brain. And it's the truth, so it's easy, you know. But I tell him where I was, been in Okeechobee for 2 weeks working, get in, and want to call my girlfriend because I want to see my girlfriend. So he goes, he has a deputy take me to the county jail. He doesn't take me. He goes straight to speak to my witnesses. And this house where I'm at, there was 7 people there that night that I'm accused of this crime. There's 7 people there. And he goes and he questions like 4 of them. They all tell him the same thing. Scotty was here with us. Scotty was here with us when we went to sleep. Scotty was here with us when we woke up the next morning. The state prosecutor calls all my witnesses liars. 7 people. Every one of them lied for me. Does that make any sense to you? This is somebody that molested a child. It's a freaking horrible crime. And you're going to tell me 4 women and 3 men all got together to agree to get on a witness stand at a capital felony trial and lie for a child molester? Does that make sense to you? Think about it. Really, really think about it. Because I don't think you could get 1 person, let alone 7 people. And like I said, one of them was my friend's mother, Judy, which was probably well into her 50s. Her daughter, Tammy, that had a newborn son. She's going to risk having her son taken away from her or getting thrown in jail herself. All these people. And the state says, oh, I can, at the end, you can read it where he says, I can see Scotty now getting on the phone and calling his friends and saying, friends, I need y'all. You know what it's never established is, when did I do this? Did I do this before I supposedly committed a crime? Did I do it after I supposedly committed a crime and was in the county jail arrested already? Because these people, they told him right after he arrested me. You know, just minutes after arresting me, he went and spoke to them, and they all told him, Scotty was here with us. Scotty was here when we went to sleep. He was here when we woke up. You're reading my trial transcripts. There's one part in there which I guess you could consider it a negative towards me, or something that you would question and say, okay, well, what's up with this, you know? And that's the point. It's the testimony about Judy, when Judy came in. So she testified that she came in and that she seen me and Allison there. And that when they questioned me about it on the stand, they said, well, you didn't see her. And I was like, no, I didn't see her. Well, there's a reason I didn't see her. Because when me and Allison heard her come in, we were being intimate. And we did what anybody would do. We acted like we were asleep. So I closed my eyes and we laid there, but I could feel someone come into the room. And Judy she testified that she came in, she seen me and Allison there. Well, a few minutes later, me and Allison stood out. This time we're just kind of laying there talking. We're quiet, but we're laying there. Well, a few minutes later, we hear the baby cry. And it's Tammy comes out of her room, and she testifies that she goes to the kitchen, and I think she heated a bottle up in the microwave or something for the baby. Well, she testified that she seen me and Allison laying there. I didn't see her. I didn't claim to see her, but I did hear somebody come out. But she says she seen me. It's all around this car. You know, he relied so much on this car and this tire. It was Michael Hyland testified that earlier in the day they fixed the tire, and that him and Michael Wiley, went to Food Lion, bought some food, some steaks, and I think they rented some movies somewhere, and they came back. Well, later on in my trial, Michael Wiley testifies to the fact that he doesn't drive his car, that his car is basically inoperable, that it's, you know, it has bad brakes, it has a bad clutch, which all was true. Every bit of this is true about this car. The car's a piece of junk, but it doesn't change the fact that he drove it all over the damn place. But when Michael Hyland was saying they fixed the tire, they did fix it. But what I want to explain is they temporarily fixed the tire. The tire Willie Mike had 2 spare tires, and they were like them old donuts. One was on the car, the other one was in the trunk. And he had cans of Fix-A-Flat in there. The reason is because you put a can of Fix-A-Flat in the tire, and he could drive it around for a few hours. But then the tire would go flat. That's the reason there's discrepancies in my case where they asked my witnesses. Well, they all said the tire was flat. But Michael Hyland said they fixed the tire earlier in the day, which is true. The tire was flat, though, because it goes flat after sitting there or even driving around. He could only drive around in it for a few hours. The Innocent Project had my case. They had my case for 18 months, telling my sister how things look so good for me, this and that. Well, then they find out, they're the reason I found out my DNA was destroyed. I didn't even know. So, but they sent me a letter back saying, hey, we can't help you, blah, blah, blah. And it said, I think they told me they were being blocked or something from obtaining my DNA. They didn't explain. So I went and hired another bad attorney that filed a motion and found out that my DNA was destroyed. My DNA was destroyed by the detective that arrested me the same day that the FDLE had it catered back to the Orlando Police Department. I went back in 2005 on an evidentiary hearing because of this. And the FDLE, they testified the first day, and they said that we don't store DNA. That is the job of the agency, which at the time, with the agency is the Orlando Police Department. And they said on November 7th, we had the DNA catered back to the Orlando Police Department. And if you will look, you will see that on November 7th, 1990, Detective Frank Roach checked my DNA out and destroyed every bit of it. You know, at the end of my trial, my father and my mother were approached when they were leaving the courtroom, and they were approached by the 2 alternates in my case. And both of them told my family they would have never found me guilty of that. Never. You know, and I'm not, no, you probably can't verify it or any of that. I get it. But it is what it is. It's a fact. It's what my family told me. And I know they didn't lie to me about that. Victims should have a voice. They most definitely, especially somebody that does, a child that gets molested from somebody. That's horrendous. But any crime, a victim of a crime has a voice. They have a system that helps them. What about people like me? You know, and I'm not trying in any way to take away from what happened to her. I'm not doing that. But where's my voice come in? Where's my voice at? And so, you know, I appreciate you. I appreciate you looking at this. I hope you'll, you know, take everything into consideration. And like I said, if there's something that, if you feel in any kind of way, bring me back. Take me back to Orange County, and I will speak to each and every one of you. I don't care. I have nothing to hide. I didn't do this crime. You know, it's not me. It's not who I am.